Do you guys want to win a Keyshawn Johnson jersey that looks exactly like this Derek Brooks jersey? Well, for you guys to enter for a possibility to win said jersey, you need to listen to the latest episode of the Buckin' Idiots podcast. I will have a link to it down in the description below. Myself and Adam, the host of the Buckin' Idiots podcast, talked for well over an hour about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He interviewed me a little bit, and then we had a really awesome time talking about many different aspects of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and also some older stuff in Buccaneers history as well. So if you want to hear that entire conversation and enter for a chance to win a Keyshawn Johnson black and red Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey, go ahead and listen to the latest episode of the Buckin' Idiots podcast. It'll be down in the description below. But without further ado, guys, I hope you all enjoy the video. Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and before I start this video, I want to say go check out the Cannon Fire podcast recent video that they just uploaded here onto YouTube. I will link it down in the description below. They also just released their Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2019-2020 regular season predictions, and they did a really good job. They talked for almost 2 hours, giving some awesome insight for the Buccaneers upcoming season. Rhett and Evan just did a phenomenal job, so go check it out. Again, I will leave a link to it down in the description below, but without further ado, let's finally officially get into the video. So for week 1 here against the San Francisco 49ers, I have the Buccaneers winning, and I know this is a revenge game for Quan Alexander, and if I go to this game, I will have plenty of tears in my eyes seeing Quan Alexander in a different uniform that isn't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I'm sure a lot of you guys feel a very similar way. However, he might not play. He does have a little bit of a injury question mark as to whether or not he's going to be ready by the beginning of the year, and I'll be honest, I like the San Francisco 49ers. I think they are a fine team, but I'm a little confused at this grandiose image that a lot of the national media and some other teams' fan bases have for the 49ers right now. I still think that Jimmy Garoppolo is a question mark. I do understand why you can be excited for him. I think that he does have a lot of potential, but the only thing he proved last year is that he can tear his ACL, and that was a little bit mean, James, but the point is that this team, while it does have the potential to be good, it also has the potential to crash and burn at any point because of this team's problem with injuries the past couple of years. And it seems like the players that they have brought in have still just continued to have, injury problems in the past. Look at the running back position. Pretty much every guy on that list has had some form of injury the past couple of years. Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman being the biggest suspects there of the injury bug. But aside from that, I do think that the 49ers defense and the 49ers offense is young, and I think that they are upcoming, especially that 49ers defense and that front seven. That is just a deadly front seven that's forming there. But I do think the Buccaneers are going to get a win here. You do have Nick Bosa, which I think is a very phenomenal addition. You also have DeForest Buckner, who is one of the most underrated defensive linemen in the NFL today. But I think that there's just too many question marks at certain positions, the quarterback position, the running back position, and, even the wide receiver position a little bit as well. I think that you can mark down as a question mark, which is why I'm going to go ahead and give the Buccaneers here in week 1. It is a home game for the Buccaneers, so you imagine they're going to go right in. They're going to want to put butts in seats. They're going to want to prove a lot of things. Devin White's obviously going to want to prove a lot of stuff as a rookie middle linebacker coming in. Bruce Arians, his new coaching staff's coming in, and they want to make sure that they can put butts in seats for future home games during the regular season. So I think that they're going to come in, get a win, and really have a great start to the year. Moving on to week 2 versus the Carolina Panthers, and I give the Buccaneers a loss here. And, quite frankly, the Buccaneers, especially Jameis Winston to a certain degree, have not looked good in Thursday night football under any capacity. And I know in a perfect world, I would say, Buccaneers are going to go 16-0, but, we don't live in a perfect world. And I think that this is where the Buccaneers are going to get their first losses in week 2. Don't worry, guys, things will get better. But I think that given the short week and given the Gerald McCoy revenge game, I think that that is going to be a legitimate thing. I think McCoy comes in here in week 2, the first out of 2 games he's going to be playing against the Buccaneers. I think he's going to catch them. I think the Panthers are going to catch the Bucs and get a win in week 2. I do like the Buccaneers' chances. I think it could potentially be a close game, especially with Cam Newton and the mystery as to whether or not his shoulder is healthy or not. But Christian McCaffrey, he's just a phenomenal running back. Greg Olsen, he still continues to do Greg Olsen things, although I think he should just retire already if we're being honest. But, ultimately, the Carolina Panthers defense, they're very good as well. And the Panthers, they're always a team that can surprise some people. So I think that with that being said, they're going to catch the Buccaneers here on a short week on Thursday Night Football, and the Buccaneers are going to go 1-1 going into week 3. Speaking of week 3, it's another home game for the Bucs, and they're playing the New York Giants. I give the Buccaneers the win here, moving them to 2-1. And man, you know, the Giants are just a question mark right now. I really can't peg what in the world the Giants and general manager Dave Gettleman are doing. You traded away Odell Beckham. You traded away Odell Beckham. That's like the Buccaneers trading away Mike Evans after the Saints incident with Jameis Winston, where, you know, Mike Evans shoved Marshawn Lattimore and got a couple game suspension. That would be like the Buccaneers trading him away after that season. It would be ridiculous. So I really don't understand why the Giants traded away Odell Beckham. They did sign Golden Tate, which in my opinion does not make up for that trade, but it is what it is. They gave Golden Tate big money. Sterling Shepard's a rising star, and they drafted quarterback Daniel Jones with the 6th overall pick. Does he start versus this game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or is it Eli Manning? I honestly have no idea. My gut feeling says it's going to be Eli Manning, but we're just going to have to wait and see. I do like the offensive weapons that the Giants have, regardless of them trading away Odell Beckham. I literally cannot say that enough. And I do like certain pieces on their defense, but you didn't re-sign Landon Collins, which I am a big not fan of. I was a huge Landon Collins guy. I wanted the Buccaneers to draft him a couple of years ago, but unfortunately the Giants traded up and got him instead. He's now gone from the Giants, which I think is a huge blow to that defense, not just as a player, but as a leader as well. And I think ultimately this Giants team is still going to be trying to figure out who they are this upcoming season. And I think the Buccaneers are going to be able to take advantage of that in their second home game of the year and get a win against the Giants, moving them to 2-1. Moving on to week 4 versus the Los Angeles Rams. It is an away game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to give the Rams here, moving the Buccaneers to 2-2. You know, Los Angeles Rams, they literally just got off of a Super Bowl loss. They're going to want to kill everybody in this upcoming season. I think the Buccaneers are going to be a little bit of a casualty in that potential reign of terror. I do think the Buccaneers can beat a playoff team like the Los Angeles Rams, a Super Bowl team at that, but I think that the Rams, they're going to want to, you know, keep on winning and just going out there and proving that they deserve to go back into the Super Bowl. Obviously the Buccaneers, they aren't necessarily there yet where you can kind of put them in a position where they're the favorites against a team like the Los Angeles Rams. Not yet. We may get there and next year or even the year after that, but we're not there yet. I think the Rams are just one of the most complete teams in the NFL right now, which is why I'm going to give them the win here in week 4 versus the Bucs. On to week 5 versus the New Orleans Saints, and as you guys can see, I gave the Saints the win here. Shout out to Nos. You get one win on my Bucs, okay? But obviously playing the New Orleans Saints at home is one of the hardest things to do in the NFL. Drew Brees, you know, he can still be Drew Brees. He should just retire already, but you know, he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and obviously in NFL history, he is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And I think that the Buccaneers, you know, they're going to have back-to-back losses, and I know, James, how could you possibly have the Buccaneers have back-to-back losses? Just follow me on this one. We will have a positive note to end on in the end, but I'm going to give the Saints the win here. Again, really hard playing the Saints at home, and they have a lot of young and upcoming stars, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they have some really good guys on the offensive side of the ball with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Drew Brees, and they just signed Jared Cook this offseason as well, which I think was a very good signing for them, and I think the Saints are going to get a win on the Bucs for one of the Bucs away games. Week number 6 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and as you guys can see, I have given them the win in London. Obviously, I gave Gerald McCoy the win at the beginning of the year, but I think in their second game in London, I think the Buccaneers are going to nab a win. They're going to get the win there. It's going to be really cool because actually the Manchester United team, you know, that really famous soccer team, they're actually owned by the Glazers as well. I know things haven't been very good for the Manchester United recently, but I think that a lot of Bucs fans are going to show up because obviously teams, you know, fans who are of, you know, the Manchester United might translate over well to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, considering they have the same owner, or maybe not, again, considering what's going on with the Manchester United recently, but I think that the Buccaneers are going to split with the Carolina Panthers, go ahead and get that win back from week 2. You know, Gerald McCoy, I'm sure he would love to sweep the Bucs, but ultimately I think they're going to split with the Carolina Panthers. They get a win in London. This is during that hellacious week of travel that the Buccaneers are going to be going through, but they're going to get a little bit of rest going into the bye week. With the bye week done, we move into week 8 versus the Tennessee Titans. It is, again, an away game. I believe it is a night game as well, but I can't be too sure. It is actually going to be a revenge game for former Buccaneers wide receiver Adam Humphries. Again, I will be watching this game at home with tears in my eyes. And not only is it a revenge game for former Buccaneers wide receiver Adam Humphries, it could potentially be the last time we see the Jameis Winston versus Marcus Mariota matchup on the original teams that drafted them. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks with Jameis Winston Wilson and how he does for this upcoming season, but you can equally say the same thing for Marcus Mariota, who in my opinion has had a worse first few years with the Tennessee Titans than Jameis Winston has had with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, in the case of Marcus Mariota, he's had a couple of playoff runs, but you just haven't seen that type of superstar quarterback play out of Mariota. He just seems to be a game manager more than anything. So obviously, this could be the last time that these two guys play each other with their original teams, and it's going to be a really good game to watch, in my opinion, 100%. So I am going to give the Buccaneers a win here. They are going to move to 4-3, and Jameis Winston might win the last ever duel between the number 1 and number 2 overall picks in the 2015 NFL Draft with their original teams. Moving on to week number 9 versus the Seattle Seahawks, and I give the Seattle Seahawks the win here. Now, obviously, Bruce Arians has done a very good job of playing the NFC West, but the NFC West has done a very good job of improving since Bruce Arians has been there as well. Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks, they have Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in the game. They have Chris Carson, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated running backs in the game. And you have a litany of offensive weapons and defensive weapons that the Seattle Seahawks have. It is a home game, again, much like the New Orleans Saints. Playing the Seattle Seahawks at home is not an easy thing to do. The 12th man, they're so loud, cool, whatever. But anyway, I think the Seahawks get the win here. They are a very complete team. They're always a playoff team. They have been for the past few years. That puts the Buccaneers at 4-4. They're at 800 right now. They have 8 games left to play. How do they do? Well, let's keep on going to week 10. Week 10 versus the Arizona Cardinals, I give the Buccaneers a win. I'm 100% going to this game for a lot of reasons. Number 1, I get to see current number 1 overall pick Kyler Murray potentially play in this game. He's probably playing in this game unless he gets hurt or something like that. And number 2, this is a revenge game for basically 99% of the Buccaneers coaching staff. So you bet your butt I'm going to this game, and I'm going to be watching it, and I'm going to be having a great time when the Buccaneers beat the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, much like the New York Giants, they're a team where you're just asking yourself, what the heck are you guys doing? They traded away Josh Rosen only 1 year after drafting him in the first round. Please keep that in mind. And obviously, they have Kyler Murray. They have Cliff Kingsbury, who's been wanting to coach Kyler Murray for years. That's going to be a good combination, I think, for the next few years to come. But I think that there's just too many question marks aside from that. You still have Larry Fitzgerald, who can probably play till he's 100 at this point. But you also have a lot of question marks surrounding the rest of that offense and that defense as well. I think BA is going to come in, he's going to dominate, he's going to say, hey Cardinals, remember me? Boom! And then just absolutely destroy them, and it's going to be great. So I have the Buccaneers getting a win here, and I have them being 5-4 moving into week 11. Week 11 versus the New Orleans Saints, I'm giving the Bucs a win. They are going to be 6-4 going into week 12. Nas, I gave you 1 win, but I'm not giving you 2, especially with the Buccaneers at home. They always seem to do a pretty decent job playing the Saints at home. They just do a really, really good job, in my opinion. They always have some really good game-ending, like game-thrilling, finishes to their game. So I think that we could see a similar situation, maybe a long Chris Godwin touchdown to win the game. Who knows? But I think the Buccaneers are going to get a win. I think they're going to play relatively well at home this year because of Bruce Arians, the new staff, and obviously the players themselves are going to want to put butts in seats, want to rally around the fan base. Obviously, us as a fan base, we want to rally around the team as well. So I think that the Buccaneers are going to play better at home than they have in the past, and I think that they're going to get a win versus the New Orleans Saints. Week 12, the first game versus the Atlanta Falcons, revenge game for former Buccaneers head coach Dirk Cutter. I give the Falcons the win here, okay? I'm sorry. As much as I have a distaste for Dirk Cutter right now, considering he went to the enemy, I obviously can't doubt him for that. Man's got to make some money, and you got to imagine there is, a certain amount of revenge factor in there for the team that fired him. So, I will give the Falcons the win here at first, especially at home. Again, much like the Seattle Seahawks, much like the New Orleans Saints, it's hard to play the Atlanta Falcons at home. They always seem to do a phenomenal job. They have arguably the best wide receiver in the league in Julio Jones. He's probably, maybe the second best wide receiver in the league at this point, with DeAndre Hopkins being around and, maybe Mike Evans. But anyway, the point is that the Falcons are going to get a win here at home, putting the Buccaneers at 6-5 going into week 13. Things are getting a little bit dicey, but guys, just trust me, things are going to end well. 13 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars. I'm giving the Bucs the win. I really do not believe in the Nick Foles-esque smoke with this Jacksonville Jaguars team. I don't think he's the answer. I think that he's kind of a stopgap bridge type of quarterback, especially going into this upcoming draft with guys like Tua Tagovailoa. I don't even know if that's his, his name. I probably butchered it, but anyway, that's not the point. This upcoming draft class is just absolutely loaded. I think the Jaguars are going to want to take advantage of that. I think Nick Foles is a bridge quarterback. Crucify me if you want in the comments section below, but I think that this team, does have still a pretty decent defense, but it is an aging defense. They have been slipping a little bit, especially last year. They slipped in a big way, and their offense just has a little bit of too much unknown commodities in guys like, especially at the wide receiver position, possibly even the offensive line as well, and then obviously Nick Foles I don't have a ton of faith in. I think that he's better than Blake Bortles, obviously, but, not by an insane leaps and bounds amount. You know what I mean? I don't think that he's going to be the direct answer for the Jaguars getting back into the playoffs. I think that they're, maybe going to be a 500, maybe a 7-9 type of team, and I think the Buccaneers are going to get a win here going into Week 14. Week 14 versus the Indianapolis Colts. I give the Colts the win here. Obviously, this is a home game, and, especially with what I said earlier, you would expect the Buccaneers to win, but, man, I really like what the Colts have been doing the past couple of years. Darius Leonard, Marlon Mack, Andrew Luck, and all the other players that the Indianapolis Colts have on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. The Colts general manager, I don't remember his name right now off the top of my head, but I think that he is possibly the greatest general manager in the league right now. He just does an absolutely phenomenal job of finding these gems and cultivating them. Frank Reich, a phenomenal head coach as well. I think that the Colts are one of the most complete teams in the NFL right now. I think that they're obviously going to be a playoff team for the AFC, and I think they're going to catch the Buccaneers here. Obviously, the Buccaneers have been very hot and cold this season so far up to this point. Trust me, things will end well for the Buccaneers at the end of the season, but I think the Colts are going to catch the Bucs here at home, surprise the Buccaneers, and get a win. On to Week 15 versus the Detroit Lions. I give the Buccaneers a win here, moving them to 8-6. I know that the Lions spent a crap ton of money, and I know that the Lions have a ton of good players on paper. The thing I don't like about the Detroit Lions is their head coach. I'm not a huge Matt Patricia fan. I think that he reminds me a lot of Greg Schiano, which is not a good thing under any circumstances. I think that he has problems being a leader and talking to his players like professional athletes, and I think that that's going to affect his team in a big way. Yes, they signed Trey Flowers and Justin Coleman and all these other different types of players that they threw just globs of money at, and they have Matthew Stafford, who I'm a big fan of, by the way, and they have Kerryon Johnson, and they have Kenny Galladay, and they have some more pieces on the defensive side of the ball, like Darius Slay, one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the NFL right now. But I think that the Buccaneers are just going to catch them. I think they have better leadership in terms of their overall coaching staff, and I think that that's going to matter for a team like the Detroit Lions. I really just don't like Matt Patricia as a head coach. I could be totally proven wrong. We have no idea, but I do give the Buccaneers a win here, making them 8-6 going into the last 2 games of the year. Week 16 versus the Houston Texans. It is a home game, and I'm going to give the Buccaneers a win. Now, I like what the Houston Texans have done the past couple of years. Deshaun Watson, very good quarterback in my opinion. Lamar Miller, very underrated running back. DeAndre Hopkins, probably the best wide receiver in the league. That's really good on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless. This is a playoff team, and I think that the Buccaneers are in a position now with the coaching staff, with the players they have right now, where they can take it to some of these playoff teams. It's not just an automatic loss anymore, and I think the Texans are one of these playoff teams that the Buccaneers just outright beat. Okay, there doesn't have to be any type of shtick, there doesn't have to be any type of wacky stuff that needs to happen in the game. I think that just these are two potential playoff teams colliding, and I think the Buccaneers are going to get one up on the Houston Texans. I like the Houston Texans. They're a very good, complete young team, but I think that the Buccaneers are just going to catch a win here, making them 9-6 going into the last game of the year. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say. Oh, James, you're going to have the Buccaneers go 9-7, and much like what you did last year, and yada yada yada. No, you're wrong. I have the Buccaneers winning in Week 17, going 10-6 to finish out their year, 3-3 in their division. They split with everybody, baby, and they beat Dirk Cutter in the final game of the year. Dirk Cutter, Rhett from the Cannon Fire podcast had a great line where his last game as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer head coach, he left as a loser, and his last game, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this upcoming season, he's he's also going to leave as a loser. I'm probably paraphrasing that a little bit, but, you know, shout out to Rhett for that line, because that was freaking sweet segue, bro. And yeah, obviously I have the Buccaneers winning. They're going to get their revenge in the last game of the year against Dirk Cutter. You know, obviously this might be for a playoff spot, considering they're 10-6. Probably could potentially be for the division title, depending on how the Saints, Falcons, and Panthers do, but it's definitely going to be for a wild card spot, in my opinion. So I give the Buccaneers the win here against the Atlanta Falcons. They always do good against the Atlanta Falcons to end off the year, and it always seems to be a home game for some reason, but I give the Buccaneers the win. I think the fans go home happy. Obviously, the Buccaneers, probably with this win, they might go into a wild card spot in the playoffs, and everybody's going to be happy because the playoffs will have returned to Tampa Bay under Bruce Arians. And I know people are going to say, oh, James, you're being too optimistic like you usually are. Okay, I want to point something out. In 2012, the Arizona Cardinals went 5-11. Sound familiar? They had a giant question mark at the quarterback position. Guys were getting benched for each other left and right. Sound familiar? And they have a lot of, they had a question mark at the running back position as well, and on the defensive side of the ball, again, sound familiar? Bruce Arians came in, made a few changes at all of those position groups. You know, he brought in Carson Palmer, a veteran quarterback. He brought in Rashad Mendenhall, a veteran running back, and he made some upgrades to the defensive side of the ball. And the Arizona Cardinals went 10-6 in 2013, Bruce Arians' first year with the team. Now, I think the Buccaneers are in a way better position than the 2013 Arizona Cardinals were in, so I think that you could even possibly bump this up to 11-5 if you want to, but I think the history is going to repeat itself. Bruce Arians is going to come in, turn this franchise around, and really, really work on getting the Buccaneers back into the playoffs, and I think it starts year one. I think the Buccaneers do have the potential to get back into the playoffs year one. I think the history repeats itself with the Arizona Cardinals, and I have the Buccaneers going 10-6, but let me know what you guys think about this prediction down in the comments section below. What record do you think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have for this upcoming season? I imagine there might be a great deal of pessimism, but guys, just work with me, okay? I think that I have explained myself enough in terms of why the Buccaneers can win certain games and why they can surprise a lot of people for this upcoming season. But again, let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is probably longer than my usual video, so thank you for sticking through to the end. Again, go check out the Buckin' Idiots podcast if you want to be in a shot to win a black and red Kearshawn Johnson Buccaneers jersey, and also go check out the Cannon Fire podcast video where they gave their regular season 2019-2020 Buccaneers predictions as well. Again, I will leave links to all of that down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed, but until the next video or the next live stream, I'll see you in the next one. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.